Hi, Babs. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for taking the time today.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for taking the interest.
Yeah. It was a very cool movie. I really enjoyed it. It really shined a light on such a great art form.
Cool.
Yeah.
I do like it.
So, how did you get involved with the project?
Well, I got involved with the project. I was dancing with Zora Von Pavanine and Angelique DeVille, which in some shows, and we're fairly close. I think she had told, because Zora Von Pavanine is one of the producers of the film as well, and I think that she had just kind of mentioned a couple of my acts to the director, and he was really interested in them, and found a time to come see me perform, and just thought that that I would be a good fit. So I guess he just started filming some of my shows, and that's just being recommended, I guess.
Okay. What was it like working with John Manning?
It was good. Yeah, he was really kind and solicitous, and did his best to make it to whatever shows he could get to, and made sure we were all taken care of. It was a pleasure to work with him. He's a kind man.
Okay. Going back a bit, how did you originally get involved with dancing?
Well, I've always really loved, theater and performance art, and drag, fashion, comedy, dance. Like, those are always things that I really loved in kind of a separate way. And I really didn't know that it existed. I didn't know that something existed that kind of combined all of those things and tied them up into a racy little package. And when I really, from the first moment that I saw that it existed, which is, interestingly enough, I watched a different documentary about it.
Oh, really?
And it was about the Seattle scene called A Wink and a Smile, and it was about Indigo Blues Academy of Burlesque in Seattle. And I had a friend be like, I bet you'd be into this kind of thing. And she put the movie on, and I was like, oh my God, where is this happening near me? I need to find out, I'm going to do this. There was never I'll go see a show. I was just immediately ready to make it happen. So it spoke to me really deeply immediately, and I just kind of obsessively started researching. I lived in a small town. I didn't live in Portland at that time, and I started traveling to go see shows, and obsessively YouTubing everything I could, and reading a lot of books on the history of stripping and different things like that. And I found my way in eventually. Through a school allowed me to meet different people in the Portland scene, and kind of get to know what was going on. And then after that point, I started growing and getting booked for shows that way. So it's pretty, it happens pretty quickly over the course of a year. I ended up, being a brand new baby performer on stage.
Nice. A rookie. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Nice. So what does burlesque mean to you?
What does it mean to me? What does the word mean to me, or what does it mean in my life?
In your life.
In my life. Well, I guess for me, it means a creative outlet of expression, where previously I didn't really have one, and it's also an expression of sexuality that feels, for me personally, in a different way than, say, a romantic relationship with somebody would be a shared expression of sexuality, right? This for me felt like it was driven by me and only me, and kind of my own crazy ideas. I had complete, control over. So I would say, creative and sexual expression, where I have, 100% of the creative license. and I love that, and I always knew that was kind of missing in my life. I, tried a bunch of different other kinds of art. I tried to be a musician for a while, and I like didn't have the discipline, and I painted for a while, and I don't know, I never really got into any one thing, but somehow this like really has kind of like swallowed me up and really fulfilled that kind of I don't know, that missing part in my life, certainly.
That's amazing. So you have your shows at night mostly, I think. Do you have a day job?
Yeah, I do. I'm an arborist. I work with trees. At the time of the filming of the movie, I was, climbing and doing production tree work, which is a pretty, demanding job. And actually, since the movie's come out, I actually suffered a pretty bad injury, and I'm no longer climbing, unfortunately. But I'm kind of moving over into being a consulting arborist and kind of doing more like risk assessments and different kinds of reports and tree inventories and things like that, which is great. I wish that it hadn't had to happen that way. I wish I didn't have to fall off a 16-foot ladder and crush my foot. But
Jesus, wow.
But it was. I've been doing production climbing for about 5 years, and it's really hard on your body. Even if you don't get injured all the time, and so it's turned into like a good transition for me.
Nice. And it's such a challenge to balance, a day job and a night job, your passion, what you need to do. And so that's awesome that you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and I try to be, like at the beginning when I started performing, I was performing every chance I got. Like you couldn't keep me off the stage, and it really at that time it did cut more into my life in a negative way. And like since I've grown a little bit and been performing for longer, like finding a balance has been more manageable, certainly, and I try to be really intentional about the shows that I choose to perform in and, the time that I choose to spend because if my life is suffering, then like my burlesque isn't going to be all that great. And if I'm not happy, then, what's the point, so I'm trying to really, make sure that I take the time to like choose wisely and spend only the time that I truly have to dedicate to it,
That's awesome. So are there any performers out there who have influenced your work?
Oh God, yes.
Okay.
So many.
Nice.
So many. I mean, I don't, I know when I first started, watching, I started just scouring the internet and learning about burlesque, watching a lot of classic people really inspired me. People like Dirty Martini. I mean, she's classic and Neo, hilarious at the same time, and Michelle L'Amour, and people like Just Darlinda and Nasty Canasta, who did just like hilarious Neo stuff. Some people who I have gotten the opportunity to meet since I've been performing, and some people who I've still never met. But so many people nationally and internationally that have been really amazing and inspiring to me. Just showing me what's possible out there. I don't even know how to name all of them.
Well, that's good. So aside from dancing, do you do any other type of performance? Like, I mean, in the film, you seem to have a very quick wit. So I'm curious if you've ever done stand-up comedy or something like that.
That's something that I'm like trying to like grow into right now. Like, it's something I've always wanted since I was a little kid. I loved watching stand-up. That was something that I always really loved, but I've been a really shy person for most of my life, and and doing burlesque, and it actually all started with the vagina monologues. I did the vagina monologues even though I was terrified, and then I realized that I could actually be on stage and I liked it, and that actually eventually led to burlesque. But since I've realized, like, I'm not, like, the tiny, shy child that I think that I am, like, stand-up and different kinds of comedy are available to me, and and that's somewhere that artistically I really would like to go. I'm, just based on what I do now, I'm more drawn to sketch comedy because I love stories, right? I love, setting up a little story and, like, turning it into, like, a ridiculous joke, and and in some ways, burlesque like limits the things that I want to do with that, right? Like I can add voiceovers and, like, do weird shit and, like, add other people into my acts, but I'm also like, well, like, I could just go for an entirely different art form and start, like, messing around with sketch comedy. I took my first comedy class, like, earlier this year. I took an improv class, and I loved it, and I really loved it. And so that's definitely something I'm trying to explore and grow in, because I've been doing burlesque for a long time, and I'm ready to grow more as a performer and learn new things and move in more directions and be a little bit more varied, for sure.
How is that type of comedy performance scene in Portland? Because I'm based in New York City, so it's obviously very big here. But how is it over there?
It's pretty big over here. I'm really just discovering it, so I certainly would not be someone to speak to it and give you very good information on it.
All right.
From what I've seen, like, there's really a lot. There's a lot of different, just from looking to where I could take comedy classes, there were, like, a million choices, and that's, I feel like, a sign of, like, a fairly healthy, large community. I know we've got, oh God, I can't remember what it's called. I think it's Stumptown Comedy Festival. I can't remember what it's called. Don't quote me on that.
Okay.
But, so we've got festivals that people come for. There's a lot of different clubs and a lot of different, like, improv troupes and stand-up. We get a lot of, touring people coming through. One of my favorite shows, Les Stand-Up, is here. It's just, like, lesbian stand-up comedians who I'm with. So it's a pretty healthy scene that I'm totally interested in learning more about.
Nice. So are there any performers out there that you haven't worked with that you'd want to in the future?
Oh, God, yeah. There's so many.
Good.
There's so many. Yeah, of course. Any of those people I named before, but really, like, there's a lot of, a lot of burlesque performers, once they get, more established, they start to do kind of, they start to go to different festivals, right? There's burlesque festivals all over the world, and that's, like, a fun way to travel. And, while I love the idea of doing that, like, it's really expensive, So, like, you apply to these festivals, and then you have to, like, if you're still new and they're not inviting you and paying you to come, you got to pay for your plane ticket, you got to pay for your hotel room, and then you're one of, like, hundreds of performers that are performing that night, and so I'm trying to, I'm trying to perform in other cities, but I feel like the festival circuit isn't necessarily for me. One, I don't love really huge crowds of people.
Okay.
Which is a funny thing to say, like,
right.
There are crowds of people. But two, like, and I guess two sides of the same coin, I love being able to make those connections with people, like, on a one-on-one basis. I got to go to Minnesota just before my injury, actually, and I got to perform. I got invited to come and perform with the Weird Al burlesque troupe.
Really?
Tight and Nerdy, which is actually, they were the ones who...
Wait, Weird Al Yankovic?
Brought their show to Weird Al Yankovic. They're the troupe called Tight and Nerdy, and they they were in San Francisco, and now some of them are in San Francisco, and some of them are in Minnesota, and they actually were the ones who commissioned the Burrito Act. They said,
cool.
Please come up with some kind of a Weird Al number, and I came up with that, based on Taco Grande. And
that's awesome.
So I got to go out to Minnesota and perform with them, and that was like, I'd like to do more of those experiences where I just, go travel and do a small or medium-sized show and like get to hang out with people and meet people and work closely that way. Pickles Quintaro is the one who invited me out for that.
Okay.
She's a really amazing and hilarious performer. So, I feel like in the future that's the way that I would like to work with people.
Okay. All right, so Babs, what's next for you?
What's next? Good question. I would say more burlesque, definitely more comedy. Like, I'm really interested in, like, writing, like, writing like a sketch show, honestly, is something that I'm kind of working on, and, it having a burlesque flavor and, like, weird costumes is kind of where I'm at right now. But definitely more burlesque in the future.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks for your time today.
Take care.